Righto, g'day. Well, behind me is some bike porn. That's right. So I'll go through each of these bikes in turn, but this is my beloved 1994 Apollo Concorde that I bought new. $1,200 that cost me. Bought this new giant 29er Anthem, first series of the Maestro suspension, 29-inch, 10-speed. Giant Rincon, bought that new, ran about 97, 98. This one is borrowed, it's a Scott Genius Carbon 920, lent to me from a friend who's currently recovering from a punctured lung and 2 fractured ribs. Good on you, mate. Merida 27.5, that's like a daily commuter, and this is another commuter that we've got, a Trek 720. What I really want to talk about is chain stretch, but what I did want to talk about is the accuracy between a standard chain stretch tool and these things. And I bought 2 of these because I thought I'll buy one, use it for myself, and the other one I'll give to a mate who I didn't think had one. It turns out he does have one. So I thought I will now do a test to see if there's any accuracy differences between them. So that's what this video is all about. And the way I'm going to benchmark it is with digital vernier calipers. So I'm going to go through each of these bikes. I know that at least this old banger Rincon probably needs a chain. And I also know that my 1994 Concorde, it's got about 4,500 Ks on this chain, so I'd be keen to see how that stacks up in terms of benchmarking whether it needs replacing or not, which is, you should really replace at 0.5%, and if it gets to 0.75%, you're generally stuffed, and at 1%, you'd be looking at probably new chain rings and a new cassette. So keep on top of your chains, and don't cycle them, just don't be a tight ass, buy new chains, It's not that expensive, they're 30 bucks each. So like most people, I started off my cycling career with one of these little El Cheapos, so 0.7 and 1% stretch markers, 0.75 and 1% stretch markers on them, drop them in, it's pretty straightforward. And then I thought I'll go something a bit fancier, so I bought 2 of these, identical, well, assumed identical. They're only cheap ones, they're maybe $15 each, and you know, eBay and other online sites are littered with a plethora of this type of tool. And the idea is that you drop it in and it'll tell you when it stops what the percent chain stretch is. But that got me thinking, how accurate are they between different tools? So this is not a video tutorial on chain stretch. There's a million better videos than I can ever make on chain stretch. What this is a comparison to see, is it worth buying one of these cheap tools to see what variability there is. And I'll use the gold standard of a set of digital calipers, knowing that, for example, a new Shimano chain for 5 links should be 106.9 mil. A average new chain, this is Campagnolo data, for 6 links is 131.95, and the maximum wear limit for Campagnolo is 132.6. Now the 132.6, I've pulled that, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 6 links. This is from Campagnolo, and I'll put the link below. So this is from their 11-12 speed chain maintenance section of their website. So let's do some tests on each of my bikes and I'll see what the comparison is between them. Righto, so my bikes range from 12 speed on the back of the Scott right down to 7 speed. That's the OEM cassette on the back of my 1994. It's dual chainring, my Concorde. Righto, this is the Merida 27. I'll take it away from the quick connect link. So it's not 0.75, which means it shouldn't be, definitely nowhere near 1%. Okay, now I've labelled that 1, so the other one by default is 2. So you put that on 0 first, like that, and then you drop that pin in like that, and then you just swing that around and lift that up or twist it, and this is showing less than, this is showing between 0.25 and 0.5%, and 2, put that back to 0, drop that in again, and that's showing 0.5%. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You've got to make sure that you're not in the grooves of the bearings. 133 we'll call it. Next is the mighty Scott. Now I've been I know this bike's been recently serviced, so 0.75, it's well under 0.75, so let's ignore that. One, there's a 12-speed chain. That's less than 0.25, which suggests that that chain is brand new. Truth be told, I've borrowed this bike from a mate. Second one, it's showing less than 0.25, about point, I'll show you that. So whatever you make that out to be, less than 0.25. It's a fairly thin chain, so hopefully my calipers can fit in. 132.35. Tool number one, it's saying 0.75. Tool number two is saying 1%, 133.68. So that's saying 0.5% on one, between 0.5 and 0.75%, 132.56. I'll be very interested to see what I've got on this, because my maintenance records show that I've got 4,699 kilometres on this chain, so it's not quite sinking into 0.75. So it's less than 0.75, which is good. So we've got tool one, reset to 0. It's 0.5% on one, 0.75% on two. So that's due for a change. 133.43. Change stretch tool number one, reset that to 0. Okay, that's showing 0.5%. Change stretch tool number two, and that is showing 0.75%. 133.13. Okay, now I'll go and calculate chain stretch and see where we go from here, see which bike needs a new chain. Okay, now this is the brand new chain. I'm not going to bother using this because I know it's a brand new chain. So let's put this in, see what we get. So even brand new, it's showing 0.25% chain stretch on, let's try it on tool number one. Okay, that's showing, so tool number one is obviously the more accurate one. It's showing less than 0.25%. And tool number two is showing 0.25%. Okay, 132.5. Righto, so how does the brand new chain compare to the old chain? Well, let's go and have a look. That is the new chain on the left, that is the old chain on the right. So the old chain is about 5 millimeters longer. In fact, why don't we measure it? Okay, so not exactly scientific, but this is showing about 4.25 mil longer for the old chain. So that's the total extension over 116 links. I figured since we're all here together, I may as well do a bike chain change. So this is the Trek 720, it's at 0.5%, and we're going to do a quick change. Now what you should have got in your kit when you buy your chain online is you get your chain, obviously, and you'll also get a quick link, and I'll show you how to use that. You need one milk crate, that's to sit on, and a pair of pliers. So let's get into it. Now the assumption here is that you've got a chain with a chain brake in it. If you need a chain brake tool, then I'll show you what they look like. Okay, so this is a chain brake tool, and you basically put that on your chain, you screw that up and you screw the pin out, and then you put your new chain on. Okay, so get the chain off, make it as slack as possible. Now, the other reason this bike is going to get a new chain is it's going into triathlon, and you pop that. See how I've got that on opposite sides of the, there we go. A bit stiff this one, and then it just pops off like so. And then thread the chain out, and what you don't want to do is you don't want to lose these two little parts of the quick link. And the reason I'm keeping this one is if the chain is really badly worn, or worse than you think, and you have to change, and you put in your chain on and you get skipping, which means when you're on your highest gear, which is your smallest back cassette wheel, if it skips when you put power down, then that means that the chain has worn and the cassette is very worn as well, and the new chain is skipping on the old cassette. So now what we do is we thread new chain through like so. You can see I'm just indexing the gear change down so that it's on the smallest chain ring on the cassette, and that's to make it easier to thread through. So if you're not sure of your bike path, so it goes up through here, goes through, goes around like so. And yes, you can put your chain on the wrong way. It's not upside down, dopey, but you can put it on so that you for example, go around the top of the sprocket wheels, as an example. Now, we will get a chance to use our chain brake here. So you'll get to the point where you think, well, what if my 116 link chain is the wrong size? So basically the way that I do it anyway is to put this on the smallest cassette ring on the back, so the smallest cog. So you can see that's on the smallest, it's going through all the right sprockets. the feeding is correct. Basically what you want to do is you want to align it. So I've threaded it also around the front smallest chainring. So now strangely but nicely for this little video, this chain arrived unlubricated. Normally they've got a little bit of thin film of lube on them and they're quite horrible. Now you can see that if I had it in that position there, it would rub. So you can see that it would rub there. So you need to shorten it so that it doesn't rub, and you can only shorten it by a full length. Like you can't connect half a link to each other, obviously, the way that the quick links are arranged. And you just want to have it long enough so that it's just not touching. So you want about a 5 mil gap between your roller on your sprocket roller and the chain. So if it's like that, it'll make a rubbing sound. If it's like that, it's too stretched. So you just want to have it so that you just want to just have clearance. And I'm thinking that with this I need to knock off one full length. So that's where my chain stretch tool comes in handy. Pop that in there, wind that in. When the quick link goes in, it can't go in there, it's got to go in one of these. It can't go in one of the intermediate ones, which means you have to knock out essentially one. This is called a single link, but really it's 2 lengths of chain. So screw your, tighten the grub screw up, and what we want to do is gently push on this. There we go. And I can feel the pin start to come out. Undo that. Take that out. You can see that that's starting to come out. And there you go. It just pops out like that. So now, when you grab your chain, let's just put that together. I'll bring that in the middle so you can see. And there you go. So that's not, as you can see up, you can see there, hasn't been seated fully, and you can either seat that fully by putting tension on the chain, or as I prefer, you can use your pair of pliers just to give that a pinch on opposite sides. It's like reality TV. It's not, here's one I prepared earlier. There we go. Look at that, just snap right in. Now we'll run this up all the gears. And you can see that clearance is absolutely perfect. So that's just what you want. You might get a little bit of tapping there from chain bob, but I'd prefer to have that rather than having a more angled derailleur. And I'll show you what I mean. As you're pedaling and you go onto the top chain ring like that, and then you change gears, look at the angle, look how far that's pulled forward. So that's what I'm trying to avoid. I don't want to have that pulled even further forward, so I'm trying to manage the difference between chain slack, spring slack in your derailleur, rear derailleur chain. And that's why you should never ever ride with this combination of gearing. It's very, very bad for your gear train. So in this position you should be on the smallest chain ring, and that's for hill climbing. And by about here, to keep your belt, your chain alignment from the top, as you look down, the chain should always be parallel to the bike. You don't want it too far over like that, you don't want it too far over like that. That is why you have 2 chain rings. Alright, that's it. Chain change 101. So what's the rub from all of that? So basically these are, I mean, this is just patent stamped, it's got no quality control. Use it if that's all you've got and it's all you can afford. As for these, yeah, look, they're okay, but buy them knowing that you're going to get some variability. You might get better accuracy and repeatability with a more expensive one, but on the whole you can see that 0.7%, 0.75, 0.5%, 0.75 or 0.5, so they're pretty close. 0.9%, 0.75, 0.9%, 1%. So that's really not too bad. So really, you can buy any of these, I would say, and if they're getting close, so if they're getting anything more than 0.5%, I'd be ditching your chain and getting a new one. All right, thanks for watching.